would like to thank Haj Bilal for his speech. And I want to welcome all of you again. I just want to talk a little bit about the program here. First of all, you're going to see a movie. It's a documentary actually, 12 minutes. In the first 6 minutes, we're going to see the story of the invasions that Israel made to our country and to the other countries in the Middle East. Starting with the invasion of Palestine. Maybe if you are riding now for peace, it's good to talk a little bit about peace and justice also. If we want to understand what happened in the Middle East, and if we are talking now about the present of the Middle East, we shall talk a little bit about the past of the Middle East. What happened in 1948, the Zionists came from all over the world. After the Second World War, after the Holocaust in Europe, someone said that Palestine should be granted for another people. And someone granted the territories of Palestine to those who suffered from the Holocaust. And we don't know why the recompensation was in Palestine. They came to Palestine in 1948. They forced the Palestinian people to leave his country, to live in refugee camps in Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. We have now more than 8 million Palestinians who live as refugees in all over the world, even in Europe, in America, and in Southern North America. Those are Palestinians. Those are still keeping the keys of their houses in the villages and cities of Palestine. Palestine in 1948 was divided into two countries according to the Security Council decision, who simply decided to grant that country to another group of people. And now, every Jewish in the world has the privilege to come and stay as a citizen. If you go to Tel Aviv now, you will find maybe people from Europe, from America, from Africa, but you will find no Palestinian. You will find everyone there who is a citizen and who has a citizenship, and the Palestinians who have the keys of their houses are living as refugees. In 1967, Israel occupied the remaining of Palestine. If we want to talk about Security Council decision, this decision decided to give half of Palestine to the Israelis, but in 1967, the Israelis occupied the remaining of those territories, who are, until now, recognized as occupied territories. I can mention here the West Bank, Jerusalem East, the Golan Heights, and Gaza Strip. According to the Security Council decisions, those are occupied territories. And talking about Lebanon, the first time, I forgot to say that Israel is constructing the colonies everywhere in West Bank. And in 1982, they said, it's finished, it's done. The West Bank is a part of Israel, and the Golan Heights is a part of Israel too. Now, talking about Lebanon and our part of this big story, We started suffering from the Israelis in 1948 when they crossed the Lebanese border and committed the first massacre. We had our independence from France in 1943. It means in 1948 in Lebanon we had no army, no resistance for sure, and no Palestinians. So there were no reason to cross the border, but they made it. They crossed the border, they committed the first massacre, and they massacred 90 persons in a small town on the border called Hula. In 1978, they invaded all the region to the southern of Al-Litani River. And they created what they called the buffer zone. It was a zone of 1,000 square kilometers, which is 10% of the total area of Lebanon. And with the collaborating with the South Lebanon Army, it was a group of Lebanese traitors who collaborating with them and who helped the Israelis to occupy Lebanon. In 1982, they came back to enter Beirut this time. Beirut was the second Arab capital to fall under occupation after Jerusalem, who fell in 1967. But this time, the resistance was born and started attacking the Israelis everywhere in the roads of Beirut. And only 3 months later, we saw the Israeli army for the first time in his history leaving Beirut. They withdrew under the force and under the strikes of the fighters of the resistance in the roads of Beirut. For sure, after committing the famous massacre of Sabra and Shatila. First of all, in 1948, they pushed the Palestinian people to leave his country, to live in refugee camps in Beirut. In 1982, they massacred 7,000 Palestinian women and children in the refugee camps of Beirut. They withdrew in September 1982, and in March 1985, they withdrew from all the major cities in south of Lebanon. They pulled back from Saida, Nabatiyya, and Tyre. Saida and Tyre are on the coast. They pulled back to the security zone, also the buffer zone, already created in 1978, where the SLA, the group of traitors, was always there to help them. Talking about the SLA, it is very similar to what happened in France during the Second World War. There were an occupier, and there were the government of Vichy, collaborators, traitors, and there were the French resistance as the Lebanese resistance in Lebanon. But unfortunately, when we talk about Israel, on the other side, there are always terrorists. You can't talk about Israel and resistance because this is Israel. When we talk about Israel, we shall talk about terrorists on the other side. We are the terrorists because we simply liberated our country from the Israeli invasion. If we didn't do, Israel would build all the settlements in our land here, exactly similarly to what happened to the Golan Heights. Now the Golan Heights is a part of Israel, but south of Lebanon is not, because the resistance started attacking the Israeli army in Lebanon. If Syria would have a resistance, the Golan Heights will be Syrian now. That was in 1985 when the first fighter of the resistance came to Mlita to stay here in this hill. Mlita is not a village. It's only a hill. And from here, the fighters of the resistance started attacking the Israeli army in its positions along the hilltops. During 15 years, between 1985 and May 2000, Mlita was the starting point of any military operation against the enemy in this region. We have a lot of martyrs here, hundreds of them, thousands of injured, lot of sacrifices, but that was the price of the liberty who came late on May 2000, when the Israeli army, for the first time in his history, without negotiations, without peace process, they just pulled back and left the country. In 24 May 2000, we were celebrating the Day of Liberation. And in 2006, we had another war. And I would mention here that we were always in reaction. We never started a war, even against Israel. They always decided to start those wars. In 2006, what happened in the resistance wanted to liberate one Lebanese prisoner in the Israeli jails. Israel refused always to liberate him. He wasn't a member of Hezbollah. He wasn't Shiite anyway. The resistance kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers and asked Israel for an exchange with Samir al-Kontar. Israel refused and started the last war. By the end of 2006 war, we made a big victory against Israel. And in 2008, we saw Samir al-Kontar liberated. We started building a museum here on this hill. Mlita, after being a military base, it became a museum to preserve those white pages of the Lebanese history. Now, I'll let you to see the movie, and after the movie, 2 guides will be with you to start your tour here, to see all the sections and to understand more how those fighters made that big victory. I would thank you for your visit again. Thank you for all what you are doing for peace and justice in the Middle East. Thank you again, and you're more than welcome.